Hello and welcome to this week's video. This week I'm going to be looking at vehicles for my bolt action battlefields. Now this is just one of those things that aesthetically I enjoy doing. Having the odd vehicle there by the sides of the houses and streets, it just makes it look a little bit more realistic for me, because the roads look a bit sterile without any vehicles. Now, I'm not saying that you need many, but it's just nice to have a few here and there just to add to the feeling of the times. And looking round for vehicles that match that scale, ones that I came across were these by Lledo called Days Gone. Now, I'm sure you've all seen these because they're in nearly every shop, visitor's shop, toy shops, you name it, you'll see them everywhere. And they're usually fairly cheap as well, because they're kind of a slightly cheaper version than the old yesteryear models by Matchbox. But the thing that picks them out for me for use on the battlefield is that they're very, very close to the 28mm figures. Now, if I'll bring a figure in on one of the vehicles, and you can see, I'll zoom in for you on that one. There you go. They are very close. I'm not saying it's perfect, but at a glance, as a passing vehicle, they really do look the part. I like this one as well. Sorry, keep panning down. They don't look that bad for scale. So anyway, I'll just pan back out for you. So far, and like I say, some of these I might have featured in previous videos, I've built just this small handful of vehicles, and what I've done is I've often took away some of the shine with a bit of sandpaper, light grade sandpaper, and then given them primer colour paint to come up with my own paint schemes, and also to blot out all the previous sign writing that was on there. And then what I've done is I've gone on the internet looking for 1940s advertisements, and I've took those, shrunk them down to size, and then printed them off in different shapes and sizes so I can apply them to the vehicle. So like this one, for instance, is Stella, and I've picked up a few of their different advertising signs to cover various parts of the truck. And then on another one, I picked out some one of the I think that's a Dutch brewery, or Belgium. I mean, with this one I've actually gone with the original colours because it was easy to obscure the advertising, but in most cases I do tend to prime them first. Certainly, like in the case of this one, I've completely, took that one back down and then sprayed it with grey primer. I've added the new decals that I've printed from old adverts, and then weathered it somewhat. Now, obviously, they're only meant to be, like passing pieces of scenery. Some of the vehicles have got the steering wheel on the wrong side. There's no ignoring that. But I kind of figure, just like then, you would have the odd vehicle. And the fact that you perhaps might have one of these on a map or two of them on a map, I really don't think that's going to be a big issue. Although there are other vehicles, like this one, where there is no steering wheel in the model at all anyway. Which is so much the better. So what I'm going to do in this video anyway is show you what I actually do by taking a look at this model that I've just picked up. Now, as you can see, it's got a label on here that it was £2. In actual fact, the chap that was selling them off was selling them for 50p each. So you can't really go wrong at that. And I think, you know, the obvious thing about these vehicles, as with that one, they are essentially the same vehicle. They just changed the add-on parts. Take that off and it is pretty much that vehicle. There's not a lot of difference. Now, on one that I did in a prior video, I completely took this back end off and made it a flat back truck. But on this one, I think what I might do is, because this is so small, the advertising, I mean, what's it advertising? It's advertising a royal wedding. I will leave this one and not bother spraying the actual vehicle. It's this bit that I'm going to focus on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this away now and give it a good coat primer black, because I think the black will go quite well with this deep plum red. And then I'll be looking to put some of my own livery on it. Now, speaking of the livery, I'll just give you a bit of an idea of what I've done. If I grab my iPad, and I've looked up, I don't know whether you can see that very well on here, an old street scene, and this is from the 1940s, and it's got this Netherland van on, and that's the decal that I'm going to take. Now, in some cases it's good because you can find a full advert and it's in colour, but where it's not, what I actually do then is have a little bit of a look at the actual style of the lettering, try and get an idea of what the colour schemes might have been by looking at what photos I have got, and then recreate it. So first thing I did is I pulled off the advert and then applied colour to it off the side of the vehicle just to see what that looked like. And then I just recreate it and pull the colour together, a similar script, print it on there, and then I can adjust that to the different sizes that I want to print off and stick on. And to be honest, they stick on really well with just ordinary PVA. If you want to use more, something else you can do, but PVA works fine on these, and it also helps to, like bed it in and you lose the edges. Obviously, when it comes to weathering the vehicle, you can then go on to seal it with a matte varnish as well. So that's what I'm going to be doing to this one. I'm going to take this piece off, take that away and spray it, and then I'll bring it back and show you how it looks. Right, I thought I'd also show you how I go about preparing one of these 3D printed cars for the bolt action battle table. Now, I haven't actually got the luxury of space for a 3D printer, or the technical know-how to be fair. So I usually ask somebody else to print me something that I'm looking for, or in this case I've picked this one up on eBay. Now all I do is I'll go round it and just check that it's got no flash. I've pretty much done that already, but it's worth just spending a little bit longer to get anything off that's obvious. And then what I use is this Mitafast super glue and the quick spray, you know, for making it an instant set. Right, I've got off most of the flash and took most of the flash off the axles as well. Just try and keep it in view for as much as I can. Now what I've done is I've just shaved a bit off there just to make sure that it sits well, and you can almost hear it click in place. So just run a bit of glue into that. Take your time to get it in so it's equal both sides, like that. I mean, these you know, with it being a one that's been printed, you know, specifically with bolt action in mind, you know that the scale's going to be accurate on these. I mean, I suppose in time there will be a bit more variety out there, but at the minute there's not quite enough, so that's why I've gone with the Days Gone models. But this one's pretty good, so thought I'd go with that. Right, so I've got both the axles in place. I think I've got just about all of the flash off these wheels, mainly on the inside anyway. Right, little drop on there, a little on that side. Right, now all four wheels are thankfully all the same. Right, it's going to help if I get one on either side, and then I can press them together. Yeah, that's better. Right, just take a bit of time before it goes off completely to make sure that you've got the wheels equal. On that side definitely helps putting them both on at once. Make sure the wheels are tiny bit on that one. Bit fiddly, but it's worth getting it right, because you'll be annoyed if you look at it and it's not lined up properly. So it's just worth taking that bit of time with it. Yep. That looks okay. And then, just so it don't move. That's it. And there we have it. And one of the few disadvantages of these models is you're obviously going to have to go with a painted window effect, because obviously there are no real windows, it's just one big chunk of resin. But it can still look quite effective, but we'll talk about that when I get to the painting job. But for now, I'm going to take it and get it primed. Right, back in a minute. I'm giving the paint a good shake, and it's a bit like when you're priming the soldiers. You've got to keep it a good distance away and do solid stroking blasts on it. And that's it. Right, now you just want to give that probably 4 hours before we start doing anything else to it. You could probably get away with quicker if you wanted to. Right, I've sprayed this black now and it's dried. As you can see, it's obscured all the previous advertising, so it's ready for me to apply mine. So I could just clip this back in place, and there we have it. So what I'll do now is I'll print off my own advertising, and then we'll stick that on, and then we can start the weathering process. Right, I'll bring you back when I've got the advertising printed. Right, what I'm going to do before I actually apply the stickers that I'm printing is I'm going to go over what to me is the worst part about these models, and that's the shiny, very shiny silver grate and headlights and bumper. It just looks so plasticky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint over that with some Army Painter gunmetal. I will tame that back down again with a wash, but initially it will just take that plastic sheen off of it. And I'll also do the wheel trims as well, just to bring them to life a bit more. Right, if I bring that up, let's put a bit of light on the situation. As I say, it's still pretty bright at the minute, particularly with the light shining on it, which is that. But once I've washed that down, it'll be a lot better. and it's instantly took away that plastic look. So what I'm going to do, I'll go away and I'll finish doing the wheel caps as well, and then it'll be ready for the next part. Right, I've completed painting the wheel trims on it now. As you can see, it's brought the wheels a bit more to life. Again, I'll be taking that down a bit with a wash when it's dry, and then before I do any of the weathering, then I'm going to go on to placing the stickers that I've printed and the labels, and then I'll start the weathering process. But as you can see, it just looks that little bit less plasticky now, I think. Right, I'll bring you back for the next stage, but first of all I'll paint up all the gunmetal parts on the car as well. I've painted all the parts that need doing in the gunmetal, and you can see there's quite a few more than you think. I mean, you've got the hinges on the door frames, the handles, obviously the wheel trims, centre of the spare wheel and the bumper, tops of the tail lights, and hinges and everything on that side. You've got the window wipers, more obviously the grille and the headlights and the front bumper, and then also the bonnet vents. I've just touched them, give them a bit of a light brush over to highlight the raised parts. So that's the body, this chrome work done on it now. So the next thing will be to let that dry, and then I'll probably start with something simple like just doing the red tail lights and something on the headlights as well. And then it's working on the windows. Now, you know, it's one of those things, you know, some people go for hints of blue and grey and whatever. I mean, I initially, I'll start off with an off-white colour, and I'll keep it a really thin coat to let the black come through it. And then I'll take it down a bit with the weathering. I've painted in those windows now. As you can see, they're looking pretty bright really at the moment. I've built that up with two very thin coats of off-white, but when I apply the wash, that'll take that back down again. But I mean, as it is, it doesn't look too bad. As I say, different people try different techniques. Some go for like a very pale blue down towards the bottom to give it the look of glass. But to be honest, it's one of them, you know, you've got to go with what you think looks right for you. But I think once I've applied a wash, they'll come back down and they'll look as good enough for me anyway. Right, I've got the stickers printed now, two different sizes. What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over this Edward and Sophie wedding thing and put the actual sticky labels that I've printed off on that part and keep the black as it is. I have picked out the back of the truck now as well with some gunmetal as well. Now, ideally, I could do with a new blade for this bit, because you really want a good edge on it to put it on. The trick is to keep the blade low as you drag it over. I'm going to turn it round. Just offer it up to see how long I need that to be. I think it's going to be the whole thing, isn't it? If you haven't got the sticky label sheets to put through your printer, it really doesn't matter. I've printed them on just plain paper before now. It just so happened I'd got some in, so right. Let's see if that's gonna fit. And there we go. Corner looks a bit iffy where it's peeled up a bit, but I can cover that over with a bit of weathering, so that's not too big an issue. I'll do the other one on the other side. Let's just have a look how I've got that placed on the other side. And there you go. It's just worth making that little bit of extra effort so it's valid for the area that you're putting the vehicle in. I mean, I'm going to be using this on my Dutch and Belgian battlefield, so I've gone for this type of label. But obviously if you're doing German, you do German labels, whatever. So it's just to give it that bit of a feel of it, that's all. But as I say, I'll weather this now, and then I'll bring them back to you when that's finished. Right, I've finished all the painting. I've applied the stickers and the new labels and everything. And what I've been doing is I've been giving it a dust with this Humbrol weathering powder. And then once I've put it on, I'm brushing it down with a damp brush to give it a streak and to take the dusty colour down towards the bottom of the vehicle more, where it gathers. But as you can see, it's took the shine completely out of the model and made it look like it's actually travelled a bit. I've still got a bit of work to do to take a bit more of the powder down, but it's looking more like it's been on a road. Now the car, I've actually painted in the windows now. I'm giving it a wash to try and take the brightness of those windows down, particularly in the bottom edges, because that just gives a little bit more of a look of the shade of the inside of the car. And obviously I've picked the headlights out and the rear tail lights as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same as I did on the truck to this. and gather a little bit of the weathering powder, but I'm going to start lower on the car. Just where the dust and dirt would gather on the wheel arches. It's good because it goes into all the door edges as well. So that's what it's looking like now. We'll take that bit down a little bit. But that's just the start. We've got to apply a little bit of dirt and dust and stuff as well. But I'll bring you back to that. Right, now that I've dusted it with white, I'm just going to give it a very small hint of this dark earth, again by Humbrol. I don't want to do too much of this because obviously it's not going to have picked up lots of mud, but it just wants a hint of it here and there, especially on the bottom. You can see it's just along the edges. On the wheels as well. It's just where it's kicked it up off the road, really. That's it. Right, the next thing I'm going to do, and again it'll only be a small amount, is I'm going to use the Splash Mud by Lledo, and I'm just going to be focusing around the wheel arches and little bits on the side, but I want to keep this fairly loose. Right. Well, you can pick that out. I'll try and put a bit more light on the actual. Like I say, I mean, there's some where it's a bit heavier than others. I can always take that down if I'm not happy with it. Just need a bit of a damp brush on that bit. The rest of it, it just looks like it's been travelling on a fairly dirty road, which is what I was looking for. And I'm going to call that done. Now that we've dusted down the truck, it's time to also give that its mud and dirt weathering. So I'm going to be using again the Humbrol weathering powders, and I'm going to use dark earth on this bit now. And I'm going to focus this again round the wheels and the wheel arches, on the tyres, let's be honest, every time you drive behind a truck, the first thing you see is all the back end is all muddy and dirty, and usually somebody's wrote something appropriate in the dirt. I don't think I'll go that far because I can't write graffiti in Dutch, so I'll leave it as it is. A little bit near the window. Whether you can see, he's certainly been through it, this one. But then I'm envisaging that he's driving down, you know, battle damaged roads and all sorts, so he has picked up some muck along the way. And what I'll do with this, I'm just going to apply a little bit of the Lledo splash mud as well. But once I've done this, the next and final stage would be to give it a matte varnish, just to hold all of this in place, and then it'll be done. I'll add a little bit of the splash mud now. Focus along the boards and the wheel arches. And that, I'm going to call that done. As I say, if I feel that there's little bits that I could lighten out, I'll just go over that with a damp brush before sealing it with the varnish. Right, I've just put together some close-up shots for you to take a look at, and then I'll rejoin you with the two models alongside the others that I've already completed. Right, now that these are complete, they can take their place alongside the rest of the collection. And like I say, you only need a few of these scattered around. I wouldn't necessarily have all of these on one table, just perhaps one or two where appropriate, especially if you had something like a garage. So it just adds a little bit more realism, makes the towns look a little bit less sterile. And let's be honest, they can even be cover for you soldiers, so they're quite a nice addition to any battlefield, I think. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found at least some of it interesting, or if it's inspired you to do your own vehicles for your own setup. If you have liked it, please consider giving me a thumbs up, and maybe even subscribing for my next video. But I'll leave you with that, and thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.